إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. We are now at the name الذكر. Allah in the Quran many times refers to the Quran as being dhikrun, a reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهَذَا ذِكْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ أَفَأَنْتُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this Quran is a blessed reminder which we have revealed. Will you pagans then deny it? So before we move forward, we have to understand that in the Arabic language, the word dhikrun usually means a reminder, right? وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. But in the Arabic language, the word dhikrun can also mean sharafun, can also mean honor, because something that's honorable is something that is remembered. Because something that's honorable is something that is remembered. So in the tafsir of this verse here, Allah says, وَهَذَا ذِكْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ. Some scholars say that this means, yani this is a blessed reminder. But some scholars they say that dhikrun here means this is a blessed honor. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّهُ لَذِكْرٌ لَكَ وَلِقَوْمِكَ. Allah says, and verily this is a dhikrun laka wa liqawmik, for you and your people. Many scholars say that in that verse, the word dhikrun means honor. So the word dhikrun can mean reminder, but it can also mean honor. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the Quran as being a dhikrun, it can mean that this Quran is a Quran that is a reminder, and it can also mean that this is a great honor. Ala kullin, inshallah, we'll see this as we continue. Imam al-Sa'di comments on this verse saying, Allah describes two characteristics that it possesses. It is a reminder of all that one needs to be reminded of, such as knowing Allah by His names, attributes, and deeds, and the characteristics and stories of the messengers and close friends of Allah. The Islamic rulings having to do with acts of worship, business dealings, and other matters. وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ فَصَّلْنَاهُ تَفْصِيلًا. Allah says, this book, or in this book, we have explained all matters. So as human beings, we know that إِنَّمَا سُنَّ الْإِنسَانِ إِنسَانٌ لِنِسْيَانِهِ. We've been named in the Arabic language insan linisyanina, because we forget. Right? The norm of human beings is that we forget. So we need to be reminded. And the greatest form of remembrance is the Quran, and that's why many times Allah refers to the Quran as being dhikr. Sad wa Qur'ani li dhikr. That's why the greatest reminder is the Quran. And we always need to be reminded so that we don't forget, because when we forget, we know that we go astray. وَمَا يَعْشَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّضْ لَهُ شَيْطَانٌ فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. Allah says, those who turn away from my remembrance, those who forget about remembering me, نُقَيِّضْ لَهُ شَيْطَانٌ. We will appoint for him a shaitan that will become a close ally or a companion to that individual. That will become a companion to that individual. So we always want to be reminding ourselves, and the best way we can remind ourselves is with the Quran. Through the Quran, people are reminded of issues and proofs, both rational and textual. Allah calls it a reminder because it reminds the individual of what Allah has instilled in his mind and the nature of believing in true stories, enjoying what is regarded as good on a rational basis, and forbidding what is regarded as evil on a rational basis. What Imam Sa'di here is saying is something that's very interesting, which is that, okay, the Quran is a dhikr, is a reminder, right? But we don't necessarily know everything that's in the Quran in detail. So how can the Quran be called a reminder if, for example, a non-Muslim or, for example, someone who's new to Islam will not know most of the things that are mentioned in the Quran? It'll be new information for that individual. So how can the Quran be called a reminder when we don't necessarily know everything that's inside of it, so we can't necessarily be reminded of things that we don't know in the first place? So what Imam Sa'di says is that the Quran is a reminder because it reminds us of what Allah has already instilled in our fitrah of good, but we just don't know the details of that good. So Quran reminds us of what in our very nature we already know is good. We just don't know the details of those things, so the Quran expands on those details. But fundamentally, the Quran can be called a reminder because it's reminding us of what is already naturally in our fitrah and just adding details to that. So it's a very interesting point that Ibn Sa'di here is saying. Another name which is directly related to the previous one is dhikra. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes refers to the Quran as being dhikra. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أولئك الذين هدى الله فبهداه مقتده قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إن هو إلا ذكرى للعالمين. So Allah says these prophets were rightly guided by Allah, so follow their guidance. Say, I ask no reward for you for this Quran. It is a reminder to al-alamin. It's a reminder to all of mankind. So Imam Sa'di says, so that they may be reminded of that which will benefit them so that they may do it, and of that which will harm them so that they may avoid it, and so that they may be reminded of their Lord and of his names and attributes, and be reminded of good manners in the ways that lead to them, and of bad manners in the ways that lead to them. This is a reminder to Al-Alameen, and was the greatest blessing that Allah bestowed upon them, so they should accept it and give thanks for it. Right, and this goes back to the previous verse here for the last point. Allah says, فَأَفَأَنْتُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Are you going to deny this great blessed reminder, right? And we covered in some other videos how people can deny the Quran and forsake the Quran by not pondering on it, by not acting upon it, by not ruling by it, and so on and so forth. The next thing, which is also connected to the previous two names, is tadhkira, right? And all of these here can be translated as reminder, okay? In terms of the detailed breakdown of the Arabic and the difference between dhikr and dhikra and tadhkira, that's for another time. That's for another time. So Allah says, ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى. ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى. Allah says, we have not revealed the Quran to you, Muhammad, to cause you distress, to cause you hardship, but rather only as a reminder for those who fear Allah. So Imam Sa'di again comments on this saying, so that the one who fears Allah will be admonished by it. So he will be reminded by what it contains of encouragement and inspiration to pursue the most sublime of aims. And he will strive to attain that, and by what it contains of warnings against the path of misery and loss. So he will take precautions against it. So Imam Sa'di is saying here that number one, Allah says, تَذْكِرَةً لِمَنْ يَخْشَى. تَذْكِرَةً لِمَنْ يَخْشَى. That the Quran is a reminder specifically for those who fear Allah. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this. So Imam Sa'di is taken from that the Quran is a reminder specifically for those who fear Allah. So for those who fear Allah, this is going to be a reminder for them concerning what they should be doing, concerning what they should be focusing on. So the Quran, it tells us and reminds us what we should be doing, what we should be aiming for, and it also reminds us of what we should be staying away from. You will also come to know in detail the beauty of some Sharia rulings, of which he was aware in general terms, and the explanation in details in the Quran will be in harmony with what he finds in his own sound nature and rational thinking. We covered this before, right? That is called a reminder according to Mr. because it reminds us of what is already in our fitrah and just adds extra details to it. The Quran is a reminder exclusively for those who fear Allah, because others do not benefit from it, right? So the Quran is for everybody, but only those who fear Allah will benefit from it. How can someone benefit from it who does not believe in paradise or hell, and in whose heart there is not even an atom's weight of fear of Allah? That is not possible. That is not possible. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَيَذَّكَّرُ مَنْ يَخْشَى وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى الَّذِي يَصْلَى النَّارَ الْكُبْرَى. So these are similar names that all point to the Quran being a reminder. And as I previously mentioned, the word dhikr in the Arabic language can also mean sharaf, can also mean an honor. So the Quran is a reminder for those things that we're already deep down inside of us and our filter already know to be true, and it just adds details to it. It's also, of course, a great honor for those who carry it and those who study it and those who apply it. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين